Hi there, welcome to another SD38 Numeracy high yield routine video. This session, we're focusing on the routine of clothesline. Welcome, my name is Janice Novikowski, and I am the district teacher consultant for mathematics and numeracy across kindergarten to grade 12. So clothesline is a routine in which students place numbers on an interactive number line, and they need to justify and explain the placement of where they've put their number. So questions to prompt that thinking: where will you place your number, and what is your reason? So what is your justification or your explanation for where you've placed it? So this is a routine that builds number sense across numbers kindergarten through grade 12, whether they're whole numbers, fractional numbers, decimal numbers, exponents, irrational numbers, integers, all sorts of different types of numbers. Really focuses on comparing and ordering. Some resources for clothesline are the clotheslinemath.com website. That focuses more on intermediate, middle school, and high school, but I'll share in the chat later some other resources where you can find some primary and early intermediate resources. So it is an interactive number line. I actually use not a clothesline, but a piece of string up on the board, and I use 10 cards to overlap. I find that those are easier for students to use rather than using clips, but you could also use clothespins. And I use lighter paper. I have learned the hard way that if you use heavier paper, you think that that's going to be sturdier and last longer, but it really weighs down the clothesline and makes it droop. So I use just regular copy paper. The routine focuses on number sense and relationships, and again, comparing and ordering numbers across a range of different number types. So here's an example from a kindergarten and grade 1 class, and you can see we're starting at 0. I think starting at 0 is really important, building that understanding of 0. And then you can see after we've done 0 to 10, we've gone back with some more 10 cards and looked at different representations for those numbers, whether they're 10 frames or tally marks or dot patterns of some sort. Students then are connecting that there's different ways to represent the numbers in different ways. Here's an example from a grade 3 and 4 class at Garden City, and we were looking at fractions and comparing and ordering fractions. And that's a really difficult concept. Students are still figuring out the numerator and the denominator and what those numbers mean when they're symbolically in a fraction. So you can see I've used some pictures there, my circles and my quick sketches, to help students compare and understand and have a visual scaffold for them to think about comparing and ordering fractions. This is in a grade 4 or 5 class at Homa, again, comparing and ordering fractions. And you can see on the bottom right, on the picture on the left, I've also had to use number lines and pictures and thinking of numbers in different ways to help them be able to compare those numbers. We've also added, you can see above some of the fractions, we've added decimal equivalents so that they're, again, thinking about the fractions as decimals and as fractional numbers and going back and forth with those. After we did clothesline as a routine at the beginning of the class, the students had some different choices in terms of what they could do next to practice this idea of comparing and ordering fractions. And some students, as you can see on the right, chose to make up their own cards and place them on the clothesline. These are some examples from grade 6 and grade 7. The one on the left is from Lori Emelson, who's a math teacher in Manitoba. I think this was in a grade 8 class for her. And so you can see how she used the clothespins, and she used those specifically so students could see the different representations for fractions, decimals, and percents. So instead of covering them up, so that's another way to look at that. And then on the bottom right, Chris Shore is the author of Clothesline Math. There's a book called Clothesline Math, and then the website that I previously referred to. And he's also begun to play with single and double and triple clotheslines. So instead of nesting them, like you can see on the top left picture, I'm having those different number forms or different number types, like fractions, decimals, and percents, each having their own clothesline, so students can more easily and visually be able to compare those. So that's something that you could think about as well. If you're grade 4 and 5, having a fraction clothesline and then the corresponding equivalent decimal clothesline below it. So here are some tools and materials to further support comparing and ordering numbers. So after you've done the routine at the beginning and had students come up and justify where to place the different numbers, you can continue practicing that routine with some different materials. So I've got some number lines here and some Scrabble tiles that are actually numbers, and having students, this was in a kindergarten class, ordering numbers up to 10. And then we have some mini clotheslines that I use for small group instruction in math. You can see on the left, that was in a kindergarten and grade 1 class. So they were working with numbers up to 20. On the right, this was working with grade 2s and 3s and numbers up to 1,000 or up to 100. And not necessarily having them in sequence, but having a collection of different numbers and having them put in order based on their understanding of place value. So using different benchmark numbers like 50 or 100 to help them think about where to place different numbers. This is connecting pictorial and symbolic representations through practice. So dot patterns and 10 frames, and just putting out collections of dominoes or dice and having students practice those big ideas that we use in the clothesline, comparing and ordering numbers, one more, one less, what comes before, what comes after, but using different representations. And then again, these are just number symbols here with younger students. This is in a grade 3-4 class. So comparing 3-digit and 4-digit numbers, and just putting out, a piece of ribbon or a piece of string for the clothesline, a collection of random numbers, and having students, work with a partner to put those in order and then record them in order in their notebook. And as a teacher listening in, you can really hear their developing number sense or their understanding of place value in terms of how they say, no, this one goes here because, as they try and explain to their partner or defend their decision to their partner. This was with some grade 4 and 5 students. So I just put out a collection of different fraction materials that I had available, and the students put those in order in different ways. You can see the fraction dice and the fraction tiles. And this helps build their understanding of, the denominator, although the denominator is a greater number, it's actually a smaller fraction because of, what we know about fractions and what that means in terms of parts and wholes. Here's some other fraction cards, some with the symbolic notation and then a pictorial representation, and students putting those in order. Those you could easily make up. I'm sure you can find PDFs of different, fraction pictures and symbol notation online. This particular card set comes from Italy. And then curriculum connections. On the left-hand side, you can see all the curricular competencies that are being developed through the clothesline routine. And then the right-hand side, just some of the number concepts across K-7. Again, whole numbers, place value, fractions, decimals, percents, integers, and then moving into grade 8 and grade 9, exponents and square numbers, irrational numbers, all sorts of different numbers you can play with along the clothesline in terms of ordering and comparing. So we do have 2 of our instructional routines posters available, one in English and one en français, and you can see the primary and intermediate examples on there of clothesline. They're available on the district math blog as well as the math and numeracy site on the portal. So that was a quick introduction to clothesline today. So as we finish this video, just asking you to think, how will you use this high yield instructional routine with your students?